you going?
I'm bugging out. Didn't you hear? Crap has hit the fan.
Can I come?
You want to come? Hop in. Hop aboard. All right, let's bug out. Yay, go live in the woods and eat squirrels. And no, I don't do that kind of stuff. I mean, I like survival, but survival is not the key when it comes to bugging out. And I always say this, listen, this is so important. Don't bug out unless your life depends on it. That's all there is to it. Your house is your castle, it's your neighborhood, your neighbors know you, you have your food supplies there, you have a shelter over your head. There's so many things, so many positives about sheltering in place or staying in your home. Bugging out is a last resort. But sometimes you have to do it. Maybe your house is gonna burn down, or maybe there's front lines of military moving in your area. That's always obviously a reason to bug out. But today, instead of talking about gear specifically, I'm gonna talk about strategies for bugging out. Like, for example, what kind of vehicle? And you would think a Jeep Wrangler, awesome vehicle, would be the perfect choice for bugging out. That may not be the case. I mean, at least not mine. Mine is like a really old one. The seats don't even recline on it. It's not the happiest thing. It's great for four-wheel drive, and that's why we have it for our property. But if you're talking about putting gear on, a lot of gear, there's limited storage space. It's not comfortable to sleep in, because when I talk about bugging out, instead of like bugging out on foot, which, you know, a lot of people envision, I'm going to bug out on foot and live in a tent and eat squirrels all day. Your vehicle is one of the best things you should be able to try to take with you if possible. I guess the question is, what vehicle? Jeep Wrangler? Maybe. I want to show you some different options, and then I'm going to go through some of the things you possibly want to put in your car. But again, it's not about gear, it's more about strategies and thinking. So if you even have the slightest qualm of I may need to bug out, this video is for you. Like I said, a Wrangler seems like the best choice. I'm not saying go out and buy a Wrangler. And again, limited space. What would work for you? And especially if you're bugging out with a family, you have to consider that as well.
How about my car, Dad? Might work. Even though it's limited in space, if it's all you have, then it works.
What about a travel trailer or a camper? I mean, in reality, think about it. It's a great idea. Self-contained, has everything you need, plenty of cargo space, place to sleep, has water tanks, sometimes you can put solar on it. So many great options. You are going to use a lot more gas getting out into the middle of nowhere, and concealing it's going to be difficult too. But again, if it's what you have and that's what you want to bug out with, it could work very well.
But a minivan might be a step up to what you're looking for. Plenty of space for extra family members and extra gear, and some are even all-wheel drive.
Two other options are all-wheel drive vehicles. We have a Toyota Highlander. It is fantastic. I mean, it's not the best on gas mileage, but you can literally switch it to four-wheel drive, which may come in handy. Or we have my Subaru Outback, which is my buddy. This thing, all-time symmetrical all-wheel drive, really good on gas mileage. I'm gonna pick the Outback. All right, so off we go, bugging out in our little Outback. I love my Outback. And it's not even just a matter of having four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, it's about the option of having it. Because practically any four-wheeler will tell you that, I mean, ground clearance comes into play, sure it does, but if you're talking about getting stuck, even like major four-wheel drive vehicles will get stuck, and having any type of posi traction or all-wheel drive is gonna help you immensely in those situations. So I'm not saying go out and buy a new car, but it may be an option if you're looking for something for a bug out vehicle.
Ta-da! Here's all our gear.
So I know I'm gonna get a whole bunch of pickup guys who are frustrated saying, why don't you have a pickup truck out in the woods? I know, but pickup trucks have their own problems too, for the fact that, you know, a lot of times it's just an open bed in the back. And in this, at least you can camp out inside the car and have a permanent shelter, although I still recommend having a tent. The first thing you're going to want to do is just unload everything and take an inventory, because you'll be surprised how much crazy stuff you might grab, especially for the fact we're talking about crap into the fan and you're on the run.
And I grabbed a fan, of all things.
Actually, that was my fault. I figured, you know, when I'm camping out in the woods, I like having a little breeze sometimes. There's nothing worse than having, like, maybe I'm being too spoiled, but I like a nice cool breeze when I try to sleep. So I will talk about some of the different things that we brought with us. There's actually a method to most of this madness. But this is not a gear video per se, but obviously we do have some gear here that I will link in the description below, so that way if you want to pick it up. But the point being is, I want to show that unless you thoroughly plan ahead of time, and if you have an emergency, you're just going to kind of grab everything. And you're going to grab some things, you will grab some things you will not need. And guaranteed, you're going to find some things that you're missing and you're like, why didn't I have that? So you always need to prepare, make lists ahead of time. But even more importantly, you need to get out in the woods. You need to practice this, because even if you have brand new gear, you will never know exactly what you need until you give it a try.
I think the best thing to grab is a tent and some sleeping bags, especially if you need some extra warmth or comfort. I mean, you can sleep in the car, but there are times you may need to sleep outside.
And backpacks. This is my bug out bag backpack. And what's neat about this is it can hold practically everything, because as a family, we are backpackers. Now, right now it's super empty because I dumped a lot of the stuff out in these tubs just to kind of give you a demonstration. But here's the thing, you want to make sure you have your vehicle to bug out, get as far as you can, but understand a time may come where that vehicle will not work for you anymore. Maybe you're out of gas, maybe it breaks down. And if you don't have some kind of backpack to pack up the rest of your gear, you'll be in big trouble.
In addition, a small tactical backpack could be useful, especially if you need to go out and get supplies.
And we grabbed a few. This is actually my get home bag, which is usually stuffed full of stuff too, but again, I dumped it out. One of the things about backpacks, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a really, really expensive one, but cheap ones, of course you want it to break while you're going, that'd be bad. But one of the most important things is have a waist strap. The waist strap takes off so much weight off your shoulders. If you get one without a waist strap, you will regret it.
However, if you do need to leave to get supplies, your car might stick out. So having some camouflage will be very helpful indeed. Where'd it go? Okay, here it is. Just make sure you bring enough to cover the whole car.
Let's talk about cooking and food. We'll start off with some MRE type stuff. Now, in the center you can see there's an actual MRE from the military. They work great, lots and lots of preservatives and carbs. Over here, we made our own MREs, which actually work really well. It's actually in a vacuum sealed bag. And then we literally just have packs of all kinds of food too. You'll see there's tuna there. Not to mention we have freeze-dried food, which we get it from American Reserves, which is one of our sponsors. We love American Reserves, and they have lots of food for this kind of situation.
Now let's talk about cooking it.
There's always an option you can use, like propane, for example. Notice we got this for $15 on clearance from Walmart one year. But you know what? If you didn't pack the propane or enough propane, this becomes just a huge, heavy paperweight in the woods. Another option, which is a fantastic option, by the way, is called the BioLite. It's a little portable rocket stove. You can put pretty much any type of biomass in there. It'll cook, and that's great because the woods, last I checked, they have a lot of wood. Next to it, you can see a couple camping sets. I would recommend you get some of these because your regular pots and pans will not fare very well in fire. And I like, cast iron stuff, but when you're trying to bug out, it really does get heavy pretty quick. Next up, water. Obviously, you have to have a lot of water. We're talking about at least 1 gallon per person per day. If you're out in the woods, you're gonna need more. I like taking these giant 5-gallon jugs, so that way you can keep refilling it. And down here we have one if you're basically out hunting or fishing or hiking. Notice it says Lifestraw on there, and it does have a Lifestraw in there, but I like this kind because you can scoop up water and then drink it through the Lifestraw. I'm not huge on Lifestraws. I like the Katadyn, but it is important that you have extra water coming in continuously. So if you do find a bug out spot, make sure you find one that has a stream or something nearby. And of course, a way to treat it too. You can use the iodine tablets, or those little tablets you can put in there, or you can actually just use a really good water filter, which I'll show you in just a minute.
You have food, and then you need something for sanitation, like a little shovel. You know it's coming, so tenfold be prepared.
Your food will only last so long, so having a means of obtaining more food is obviously vitally important. Make sure you carry such instruments that we can't talk about on YouTube.
And always, always have medical supplies with you. Your life may depend on it.
And that's all well and good, but of course we always see a wrench thrown in the gears, so you need to have some backup emergency stuff as well. For example, an emergency poncho. These are always good. That's a heavy duty one right here. But notice I have a box of a whole bunch of small emergency ponchos. There's 4 of them in there. That way you can reuse them. Down here we have what's called a tactical bivvy. Look it up, these things are amazing. A beautiful reptile snakeskin looking hat. It's always good to have a hat. The Go Time Gear Life tent. And this tent is literally just, it's not a full encompassing tent like we already had before, but it gets you out of a jam and will keep a rain off your head. Then of course, the old famous emergency thermal blanket. These are great.
And listen, you're gonna need to start a fire. So it's important to have a fire bag. Inside there's lots of things to start a fire with and help it grow. Lighters, matches, magnesium lighters, and of course, fire starters. Very important. Of course, you're gonna need something sharp to cut all that firewood, like an axe or a machete, or if you want to film an 80s slasher movie.
Okay, let's talk for a moment just about electricity. Now, you may think electricity is not absolutely essential. In a lot of ways, it's not absolutely essential. But if you want to have communications, if you want to be able to keep your food cold, if you want to, the list goes on and on, having electricity is something that could be absolutely vital. And that's why I recommend bringing a solar generator. For example, we brought our Bluetti AC240. I modeled this a few days ago, and it is an absolutely fantastic unit and will do very well for you. Now, since you're already in your car, why not go ahead and take the unit with you? Now, obviously, if you need to bug out or bag out from your car, this is gonna be a little too heavy to carry. But if you're gonna be in the woods, practically speaking, think about this indefinitely, having this solar generator will make it so you can keep all of your units charged up in power. And let me go ahead and go through a bunch of those for you. One of the first things you're gonna wanna power when you get out in the woods is some kind of refrigeration. And you literally, obviously, with this Bluetti could put a small fridge inside your car. What I like and what I have is a small portable refrigerator freezer. And this thing's fantastic because you can independently check the temperatures in here. You can make it so you can not only just keep food, maybe you got yourself a nice little squirrel, but maybe you actually have insulin because you have somebody who's diabetic. But how are you gonna power it? Of course, we use our Bluetti. So I'm gonna come over to my Bluetti, power it up. Right now we have 90% on the unit. That's okay. Let's go ahead and plug in the refrigerator freezer, turn on the AC, and off it goes. Now you can see we're at 90% because, you know, I didn't have time to charge this before we bugged out. And we have 71 watts being used for this refrigerator freezer. Now to keep it going, of course, you want to have solar panels. And that's why I have the PB350 solar panels from Bluetti. Fantastic unit. And this makes it so we can keep it charged up, again, indefinitely. Because if you're going to be out in the woods, out in the wilderness, and you have a situation in which you need to keep power going all the time, you're not going to have gas for your generator, you're not going to have extra propane, but you are going to have the sun. So just find a sunny location, take these retractable legs, pull them out, and now you're going to have, practically speaking, indefinite power out in the woods. Now we actually used this before to show you how you can use this to hook up like your freezer indefinitely, but this will actually work well for your car too, as you can stay out in the woods and make it so you have basically limitless power. Perfect. Which you can see is more than enough power to power this refrigerator freezer for quite some time. Again, it's not even simply just a luxury of having refrigeration, but if medication or preserving your food, this could be literally vital. A refrigerator freezer, check. Food supplies, yeah, I'm sorry, your solar generator is not going to help you too much with that, but it will help you with water. Here we actually have one of our rechargeable water pumps. You can take this out and drop it in the muddiest of creeks and it'll make nice, fresh, pure water for you. How are you going to power it? I simply just plugged in a USB-C into it, take the USB, put it in my Bluetti, plug this in right here, and turn it on. Now, it's not only going to charge it, but it's going to power it. So now we can have water indefinitely as well. So you can see multiple things. I mean, you can actually have just a manual water pump, that's true, but this is going to save you a lot of the trouble and time as this does all the work for you.
Now, of course, having some form of communication is very, very important, like a crank radio, which a lot of people have. So we're going to crank it up now. 5 hours later. Of course, this is great if it's the only thing you have, but we have a better way. We're going to plug it in here. Just FYI, this is an American Reserve radio. Go over here, turn it on, and then plug it in, and it is fantastic. Okay, problem solved. Now I don't have to crank anymore.
Another communication, ham radios, and walkie-talkies too, mind you. Being able to keep these powered up, you can actually channel into emergency services, sometimes other things you're probably not allowed to listen to, and talk with each other. Because these work kind of like walkie-talkies. In fact, they do have the frequencies to talk like walkie-talkies, but obviously there's some more powered, higher power signals you can do too. So, Naomi, head out in the woods and let's talk to each other on these real quick.
Dad, can you hear me? Dad, can you hear me? Over?
Roger, I can, oh, sorry. Yes, I can hear you, Naomi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What a marvelous piece of technology.
I know, right? It's almost like you're right in front of me.
I am right in front of you.
So for all your communication needs, keep them all charged up with your Bluetti. Perfect.
Now there are a few more things to charge up. Of course, we have battery powered flashlights, but having a recharged flashlight will make it go on forever. And a Geiger counter is very helpful if there's a nuclear thing going on. Yep, you can plug this all into your Bluetti and keep it going.
Now, if you're bugging out your car, here's one thing people don't think about at all. A car charger. I mean, if you have kids, you know what they do. They love to put your car through a battery test, turn on lights, and could you imagine being out in the woods and now everything's completely dead. So take a battery charger, plug in your Bluetti, and now you can keep your car charged up and ready to go, so when you're ready to go to your next area. So same thing, just go ahead and turn on the AC, pop it open from the bottom, and plug her in. Now you're not gonna get stuck anywhere. So no matter what electronics you bring with you when you bug out, or obviously just go car camping too, you can take your Bluetti with you and keep all this stuff going simultaneously, especially with the solar panels. You'll never need power again. And obviously in situations where it comes to be life or death, Bluetti has you covered.
Hold on, Dad, hold on. We cannot forget the fan. It's gonna make bugging out way more enjoyable. Now, if you wanna pick up any of these items, especially the Bluetti, check in the link in the description below to pick up yours today. Thanks for watching.